this retouch is going to retouch something that you've probably really never noticed unless you really look at an eye. But the iris generally has a dark ring around the outside, and you heard me mention a couple of times to either avoid it or include it. But a lot of times, the dark ring isn't really visible. And the dark ring actually looks good. It actually makes people's eyes look more beautiful. So by darkening the ring, if it needs it, of course, it doesn't always need it, but if it needs it, by darkening it, it makes the eyes look more interesting, gives them a little bit more depth. It's a little touch that means a lot. Now, a lot of times this will also be affected by how much light you're using. For example, in this image here, you can see if I back out a little bit, it's got a glow around it, which means I probably shot it with a ring flash, of course. You can see the ring flash, not just in her eyes reflected in the catch lights, but that is the telltale glow of, I used a ring flash. I'm not particularly a ring flash fan, but in this case, you can see what one of the casualties of the ring flash is. You don't really see, if you go look around her eyes, you don't really see the dark ring that should be around there. I mean, it's a tiny bit darker, but it's not much there, and her eyes look kind of flat. So we're going to add those back in. And this isn't just a thing that happens with ring flash, by the way. This happens quite a bit. One thing I can see, too, is that her pupils don't look very dark, partially because there's a ring flash blasting a bunch of light right into her. So I might just start with fixing the pupils first. Just duplicate the layer. Now think about this. I want to make her pupils darker. What would I do? You know what it is, multiply, right? Hide it behind a mask, then let's just paint over her pupils. Easy enough, right? Let's just do that. There we go, there's one. There's a click over that one too. So now at least her pupils aren't looking all washed out, which was kind of eh. So we can flatten that or whatever you want to do. Okay, now let's work on that outer ring. So we're going to do one eye and then we'll copy it over to the other eye. Start off by making a elliptical marquee tool, a round selection, oval selection over her eye. Try to get as much of her iris in as you can. All the way to the edge. Now you can see, because of just the way this is here, I'm going to move it a little bit, that there's a couple of areas I'm missing on the outside of her iris here. So we might be better off to either use the lasso tool and just very carefully try to trace around her eye, which I don't know how well that's going to work. I say that and then it works really well. That's surprising. Okay. Try doing that with a mouse. That's a little harder with a mouse. All right, so there you kind of got it there. Or you can try the other way, which is use this as much as you can, get as close as you can, but it's not exactly perfectly oval shape, but that's pretty close. All right, let's go with this one because I think this is fairly close. Now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to go ahead and first soften it a bit. Let's go feather, modify, soften the selection, maybe 3 pixels, just a little bit. Now you're going to press Command-J to put that eye up on its own layer so you just have the eye, okay? And okay, now, and by the way, don't do this. There's no reason for that. All right, let's put it back where it was. Now, zoom in. I need to make the outside of this darker. How would I make the eye darker? Well, you know, multiply is born for that. Let's choose multiply. The whole thing becomes darker. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to put your selection back around here. You're going to shrink it up by maybe 5 pixels and hit delete so it knocks a hole out of this darker layer and show you the lighter layer below. That'll all make sense in about 35 seconds. First, we want to get our selection back. So hold the Command key on Mac or the Control key on PC. Move your cursor right over the thumbnail over here in the Layers palette, right over it, and just Command click. On PC, Control click, and the selection comes back. Now, how am I going to make that selection a little bit smaller? You're going to have Photoshop do it for you. Select, modify. So it's a selection. We're going to modify the selection by contracting it. We're going to make it smaller. Let's make it like 5 pixels smaller. Click OK, and you can see it shrinks in. All right, and 5 pixels is probably okay. Now, we've already softened the edges and everything, so all we really have to do is hit delete, and it cuts a hole out of the top layer with a soft edge around it, and it leaves everything outside there still there, which makes the outside ring darker. Look. So now you've got this dark ring going around the outside that wasn't there before. Look, here's before, Dark ring. See how much better that does? It looks better, doesn't it? Now, we're going to add a layer mask to this and just go in here and paint away the stuff that's spilled over. So the mask is white. You need to paint in black. So we'll make 4, and then just say, whoops, I didn't mean this part. But look at that. Look how much better that eye looks now that it's got that there. And if you think it's too dark, of course, you can lower the opacity using the opacity amount. That's kind of went blank there for a second. What is that thing called with opacity on it? Oh, yeah, opacity. So now we're going to decide. I think it might be a little too dark. So let's just lower it to 80% and see what that looks like. That's better. Now, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Command-J. Drag it over to the other eye. And if you have to rotate it a little, I think you might have to rotate it just a tiny bit. And nudge it back into place. There we go. So both eyes have it. Now we can merge these two together, press Command-E, and it's going to say, do you want to preserve that mask or apply it? I want to apply the mask, make it permanent. So look at the difference that makes in the eyes. It does make a tremendous difference. So there you got it. You've got the tremendously improved eyes, thanks to the darkening of the iris. And I know that seems like a little thing, and this one is a little thing, but combining with a bunch of other little things, you get a big thing.